Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, I'm Nick. I record videos about IT career, DevOps, getting into technology, and a whole bunch of tech stuff that interests me. And today, I want to talk about video on the internet, specifically something that I've touched on a little bit before in a previous video about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, which is LBRY, the protocol slash site that you can go ahead and use to stream and upload video and do so in a manner that is open source, it's decentralized, it's not controlled by any particular company. And I wanted to talk about the viability of LBRY in 2021. So at the time that I'm recording this, it's the 13th of December. And LBRY has changed quite a bit in the time that I've uploaded my last video. Namely, when I uploaded my last video on this, LBRY was pretty good. It was available. You could use it. It worked. But it was an application that you would download and you would install on your computer. Now, they had one for Linux. They had one for Windows. I believe they had one for Mac, iOS, and Android. So they had a lot of availability with it. But since it was an application, it wasn't nearly as easy to go share content with people because they already had to have the application installed if they wanted to go watch a video. Now, the big change that's occurred in the last, let's say, year and a half or so is they have started emphasizing the web interfaces and interfaces plural to the LBRY backend distributed hash table, effectively, because that's more or less what it is. It's a blockchain based distributed database of content, right? So historically, you would use the LBRY application, which I've actually got up and running over here. It is currently uploading a video, but it's quite nice. Looks very much like the website that you see behind me. You've got a whole bunch of different videos that are sort of your dashboard that change. What you can do is you can set up a list of tags that are different topics that you follow. So this will be based on things like your interests, maybe in for me, Linux and FreeBSD and sailing and whatever you have set up. You can see your tags sort of listed out here, and they'll kind of show you so science, news, right? Wish they'd have sort of negative so you could exclude stuff, but it's a pretty decent interface, and if you want to go watch videos, it works pretty well. It's got a search function. You can search for something like my channel, which is Nick Trains, same as on YouTube. And the really nice thing is you can actually set it up if you have a YouTube channel to just mirror your content, just have it sucked over. You can sign up for their YouTube partner program where they import any content from YouTube on your existing channel and just mirror it over here. You go click on a video. I'll go click on the most recent FreeBSD one. You click that. It takes maybe a second or two to kind of load the video and then starts playing. So pretty comparable to the experience that you have on YouTube. Now, YouTube might be a skosh faster in loading the video, but it's fast enough that you can use it. Now, there are a few sort of downsides for creators, which is you can see here it's got 13 views on this site. Maybe you can't. It's kind of small. I can zoom in. It's got 13 views here. If I go look at the other web interface that they have, which is called Odyssey, you'll see a different number of views. And that's because this is anonymized, right? So you don't actually know specifically how many people are viewing this content because it's distributed. That's kind of one of the benefits from a user perspective, is it anonymizes who's accessing content and things like that. So it's a pretty interesting idea. If I go to LBRY.tv, LBRY.tv is their main page that you can go use to access LBRY content. And LBRY is the backend protocol that they're using. So the idea is that by my running the LBRY application, I am actually, as is any implementation of a peer-to-peer kind of file sharing or any peer-to-peer service, I'm also acting as a server as well as a client. So if I use the web interface, obviously I'm just accessing the content, but that's distributed across tons of individual users who are running the server and basically host small portions of the content, very much like a BitTorrent, right? So LBRY.TV is their kind of main page, or historically has been, but because of the way that the LBRY protocol works, it's not constrained to just videos. So you could go upload files, you could go upload audio, things like that. So they introduced fairly recently the Odyssey website, which is basically the same thing, but it's filtered so that it's going to show video content. More or less the same interface. It's a little bit of a rebranding, but they both work really well. And the great thing is because you can go upload your content to the backend LBRY distributed database or file system or whatever you want to go call it, everything is federated, right? So I can go here and I can do a search for Nick Trains. And I can go ahead and find my same content. So I can go click on it over here, and then I can go click on this, FreeBSD video, which we looked at previously. And you can see that this loads really quickly. And you can see that this one does, in fact, actually have the same number of views. It says 13 here, but it does, I think that's just a coincidence, right? So normally I've seen them actually differ in terms of the number of views. But this is a great way to be able to go use this. It's got, like, dislike. So basically fire or the fire's out, I guess, is what that sort of works. So I can go click on that. You need to go log in to do it, but it's very simple, to go create an account. There's nothing, particular here. And it's a really interesting idea. You can do a repost, which is interesting. That's sort of a neat idea. So you can repost similar to, like a Twitter, right? To go amplify something. And basically, like, you can include content from other creators sort of in your feed if you've got a channel. Obviously, you can go ahead and click on share. And that's really the major benefit of this, I think, versus recent or the previous kind of versions of this, which is, you've got just a link that anybody can use. I can send this to anybody, and they don't need to be technical. They don't need to know about the LBRY backend. You can do pretty much everything that you would do with YouTube through one of the web interfaces like this. So you can go create a channel, you can go upload content, you can do all that kind of stuff. Now, the big difference right now, in addition to all of that, is there's no ads, right? There's zero ads. Now, at some point, there probably will be ads on these, web interfaces, but they're just that. They're web interfaces. So they're being, run by a company or an organization or nonprofit, just like anything else would be, right? So you can have an email server provided by, your ISP, which is doing this for commercial reasons, or it could be a university, which is, potentially nonprofit, or, things like that. So the other piece about this, which is interesting, is it is cryptocurrency based. So it's cryptocurrency based in terms of the incentives that are created. So the idea is that I have this support button. I can go click on support. Now, I'm not logged in with an account right now, but I could go click on support here, and I could basically donate, very much like a coffee or a Patreon, some LBRY coin. So at that point, you can go ahead and support creators fairly easily. And I think the big benefit for people generally is the costs associated with something like a Patreon or a PayPal or coffee donation is a fairly high transaction rate. So they typically be like a 2%, 2.5%, 3% credit card cost to do transaction, and then the providers add their own profit on top of that. So it eats into the amount that's going to be given to the creator. Now, the downside is it's a cryptocurrency, so you got to jump through a little bit of hoops to get money out of it potentially. So they use LBRY coin. So if I go to, we'll just go to Coinbase. I think it's Coinbase.com, and we can do a search. How do we do a search on here? Well, let me just do a search for LBRY coin. So we can do a search for library coin, and it's going to go ahead and take us to, the current price of the library coin. We can go ahead and see that, it's currently worth basically, 7 cents or so per coin, right? So you could go ahead and effectively sell it on an exchange and then get the money out of it. Now, what I would love is if the uh, corporate portions of LBRY, because LBRY is basically, they have a foundation and they have a corporate kind of piece that's running the websites. I would love it if they, in the web interfaces, had the ability to go cash out directly. So they would basically sell your coin for you, and then you could have that just deposited into bank account or PayPal or whatever it was. I think that'd be a really nice way of them funding themselves, right? Just kind of giving that sort of convenience factor to it. But I think this is very, very viable, and I think this is a really nice tool. So what I would do is I would say for anybody who is interested in this, interested in the idea of having an alternative to YouTube, because I'm not saying that YouTube is bad, but it is run by a large global corporation, which is at its sort of heart an advertising company, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I don't think it's bad to have alternatives that are viable. So what I would say is if any of you guys are interested in this, and I know a lot of my viewers will be, just because there's sort of a through line of interest in open source and technologies like that on my channel, is I would say, start using LBRY. Use it as a user, but also if you have channels that you watch on YouTube, um, contact them. Just mention on their channel, like, hey, have you heard about LBRY and the fact that you can turn on syncing of your channel to LBRY? So, that way if your account ever got deleted, or, they changed their terms of service so that particular content wasn't allowed, or maybe the algorithm just de-emphasized what they were, showing, because they were no longer interested in sort of promoting that, you have an alternative, right? So I think that's the kind of first initial really easy steps. Is just sort of letting other people know that this is available. Tell your friends, tell your family, like, hey, this is a cool thing. If you're going to go upload a video to share with your friends, like maybe you have somebody ask you a question about how to go do something on the computer, and you record it using OBS or a screencast or something like that to go show them, upload it to LBRY instead of YouTube, and then send them a link to one of the LBRY web interfaces, because this is very viable. You go ahead and look at the content here, and it reminds me of YouTube from like 10-15 years ago when they were much newer. Now there is a sort of a bit of a downside to the content, which is a lot of the people who are going to things like LBRY are doing so because they're anti YouTube. So there's definitely a bit of a political bent to the content that you will see here. There's a little bit of weirdness with some of the topics. If you have kids, one of the things that's worth noting is that you can uncheck and have it show mature content. So you can find things like pornography and stuff like that on here. The idea is that it's completely unregulated, right? So it's the there's no company, there's no one who sort of says like what content is allowed and what's not allowed. The only thing that determines whether some content is allowed or not is the law, right? So they have a mechanism through the application and through the web interface to basically block content from being discovered, through those interfaces, but it can never remove it from the database effectively. So yeah, it's interesting in that sense. Obviously, if you're parents and you have young children, things like that, it may make more sense to have them use something that's a little bit more controlled in terms of a platform, maybe something like a YouTube, or just supervise them when they're using it. But the idea is that this is absolutely something that anybody could use, including a child, because basically all you need to do is go to the website, click on on one of the videos, and it will just start playing. So, if we go look at, let's say, one of these maybe classic videos or someone, we'll look at the Odyssey um, kind of video here. So let me go include my desktop audio, so when this starts playing, it'll be included.
My entire catalog of all videos I've previously done being available on the YouTube alternative Odyssey.
I will put all of my
I'm going to turn that down a little bit.
Odyssey.
All right, I was just tweaking with the audio, so that may be a little bit weird in terms of the volume level.
What is Odyssey?
But you can see how easy it is to use. I mean, just click on it and it plays, just like on YouTube. And it's very performant. It's really nice. The user interface is pretty good. Like, it's not maybe quite as polished as some others, but yeah, it works. It works fantastic. Also, you can see that there's some paid content. So, for example, here, I don't know how this works. This may not be. This looks like it may be not legal, but they have videos of an anime here, and they're charging for the content, right? So you can go click this, you can go watch this, but some content is going to be charged for, right? So you have the option when you go upload, and actually I can just go show that here. If I go to click on the upload button, I click on upload here, you have a pretty simple little wizard that's saying, like, what's the title, what's the file. It needs to be sort of in specific format unless you have FFmpeg installed, which is pretty easy to do. I'm assuming that most of my viewers would be pretty comfortable with that. And if we kind of scroll down, they will say, where is it? This is a free video. Okay, yeah. So down here, it's a little bit hard to see just because this is sort of blocked out. Let me go pick a file. I'm going to click on open here, right? So all the rest of this kind of opens up now, right? So you can see here that we can do free, right? Or we can go add a price to this file, and then we can say how many library credits we want to go do. If you put it in US dollars, that will then convert it to library coins. So let's say I want to go charge, 0.02 cents to go upload, for somebody to watch this video. I could do that. And the idea is cumulatively that could add up to be, a decent amount of revenue compared to, what you would see on YouTube where somebody would have to watch an ad, right? So there's the alternative way of doing things, which I think is really interesting. So I think most people are going to be doing free, but if you did want to go use this as a content or a platform to go monetize content, they do have that built in, and that's sort of the idea behind this. Is it's a platform you can go use to go do that stuff. So I'm not going to go upload a video right now, but it's a again, pretty nice platform. Definitely check it out. Look at the the LBRY.tv website. Look at the Odyssey.tv or Odyssey.com website. It's the same exact thing, basically, just slightly different interfaces, but it's something that you can go share with your friends who maybe aren't as technical. They will still be able to go ahead and use it, and it works, fantastically well. So I definitely think that this is something that in 2021 we're going to finally get a legitimate, viable alternative to YouTube that is going to be open source. Now, the thing is that unless people support these companies and platforms, they're not going to stay around. But I think this one is definitely viable, and I don't have any problem with YouTube, or I don't have any problem with corporations making money or anything along those lines. But I definitely am going to be using LBRY in addition to YouTube, because I think it's worth having an alternative, if only just for the fact that YouTube, like any other website, could be hacked, could be taken down, could be unavailable. And I think it's always a really good idea to have a second option, so that if you're producing content and if you're making it available to people, they have another way to get to it. So yeah, check out LBRY, check out Odyssey.com, and if you have any other sites that you guys use that you prefer, I generally like platforms over sites, but if you have any other alternatives, I'd love to hear about them. So feel free to throw that down in the comments, and let me know what you think there. And yeah, have a great day. Have a great holiday. Happy Hanukkah for those of you guys who celebrate that. Christmas is coming up, so happy Christmas or New Year's or whatever you celebrate, if you celebrate anything this time of year. And if not, just have a great, rest of your week and rest of your month, and Happy New Year. So take care.